Good evening. Now, I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 1st, 2017 meeting of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission, which I'll call to order. We have a quorum present. We have 4 items under new business today, the first of which is to schedule a public hearing for a historic bottoms planning study. The City of Murfreesboro, the Planning Department is the applicant. Donald, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you. Tonight we're requesting that you schedule a public hearing for the Historic Bottoms Long-Range Plan. The study process took almost a year to complete, and during that time our consultant Reagan Smith Associates, supported by city staff, conducted numerous individual and small group interviews, hosted 5 steering committee meetings, held a stakeholder workshop, and hosted 2 open houses. The stakeholder input gathered at these events shaped the long-range plan, which we think fairly reflects the shared concerns, ideas, and aspirations voiced by the more than 200 stakeholders who participated in the study process. In December, our steering committee voted unanimously to send the plan to you with a favorable recommendation. And at the commission workshop last week, we had a great dialogue about the plan and its implications for the future of the historic Bottoms area. At the public hearing, Randy Caldwell and Kevin Gunther from Reagan Smith, along with their subconsultants and city staff, will discuss the study process and the resulting document in more detail. And we will recognize the steering committee members and others who gave their time, energy, and expertise to this planning effort. Based on the input that we received from commission members, we think that Wednesday, March 22nd, would be a suitable date for a special meeting to discuss the study and conduct a public hearing. We would ask you to schedule that, and we can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
What day of the week is 3/22?
None. We're ready for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a scheduled public hearing for the North Highland Avenue Planning Study. City of Murfreesboro Planning Department is the applicant. Mr. Blomley, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb and members of the Planning Commission. Not much more to say about this one than Donald covered the process. The North Highland study was about a month ahead of the Historic Bottom study, and we had our Planning Commission workshop in December. Heard a presentation from Randy and Kevin from Reagan Smith and got some really good feedback from the Planning Commission that afternoon. And so we would like to move this forward to the public hearing process, the Planning Commission, for further discussion from the public and from the Planning Commission. And we would request that it be scheduled for the same date, March 22nd at 7 p.m. And we will conduct both public hearings regarding these studies at that meeting. There will be separate public hearings at that meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Good job, Matthew.
Thank you, sir.
Ready for a motion.
Make a motion to set a public hearing for Wednesday, March 22nd.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Annexation plan of services and annexation petition for approximately 406.3 acres along Burnt Knob Road, Veterans Parkway, Blackman Road. City of Murfreesboro is the applicant. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Chairman Lamb. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of the annexation and the zoning of this property, which is the next item on the agenda, I'd like to invite Ms. Angela Jackson, the newly minted director of our Parks and Recreation Department. So first of all, congratulations to Ms. Jackson on her recent appointment as Parks and Recreation Director. And she's got just a brief presentation about the West Park project and where we are in that project right now, and just for the Planning Commission's information.
Thank you, Matthew, and good evening, everyone. We are very excited to be working to plan a new park in the western part of Murfreesboro. As you know, and as Matthew, I'm sure, will share some maps with you in a moment, there are 123 acres over at the Blackman Burnt Knob area of the western part of Murfreesboro that we are currently working with Kimley Horn and Associates to develop preliminary master planning. We plan to have that key concept plan together by the end of the month to present to our Parks and Recreation Commission and the Murfreesboro City Council in a joint meeting as far as what kind of amenities and features are going to be going into that park. We know one of the first steps, of course, is to come to you and discuss annexation, which is what we're here to do tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? We're an inquisitive bunch tonight.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Lamb, and I'll just say a few brief words about the annexation. You'll notice that if we could put the map up in front of us, the requested parcel is two parts. It's the approximately 120 acres on the north side of 840, and then there's a 3-acre portion of the property on Lyle McDonald Court south of 840. That was all one parcel at one time, and it was separated by the construction of 840 a number of years ago. So that is the property that has actually been petitioned by the property owner, who is the city, for annexation into the city. But we thought in looking at this, we needed to take a larger, more global view and not just try to annex just that property. So we've included a great deal of additional right-of-way and 7 additional parcels in our presentation to you. And, of course, we would want you to opine as to whether or not you think this is a good idea to kind of study wide and perhaps scale back if we need to in the future, depending on whether or not we get the petitions in from the adjacent property owners. But we'll be boxing in several parcels, and so we want to go ahead and include those parcels in the study so as to avoid a very long and awkward 10-foot strip. The exact location of the 10-foot strip would be determined once we find out what parcels do not want to be annexed, but we want to try to start without a 10-foot strip if we can. But we've already heard some positive feedback from several of the property owners that we would look to study in addition to the requested property. And several property owners appear to be willing to sign petitions to include their property in the annexation, including Mr. McDonald's property here along the west side of Blackman Road, and perhaps this property here, which is a rental home and is surrounded by the park property on 3 sides. And we've had conversations with all of the other property owners except 1 or 2, and they were generally favorable about us studying their property. We certainly didn't want them to see us studying their property on Channel 3. We wanted to give them a heads up about it first. So we made an effort to call those property owners and let them know. And certainly, we cannot annex property unless a property owner petitions the annexation in writing or consents in writing. So certainly if we do not end up receiving written petitions for those properties, they will be removed from the study area. But as I mentioned, our thought process at first is usually to study big and scale back if we have to. We've also included rights-of-way along Blackman Road, Lyle McDonald Court, Veterans Parkway, Burnt Knob Road, and 840. And there are some strategic reasons for including these rights-of-way in the annexation study. First of all, we've heard from Chief Folks of the Fire and Rescue Department that clarity of jurisdiction on I-24 and 840 is very important. He was very forthright in his desire to see the entire interchange of 840 and Veterans Parkway included in the study area. Also, there are 2 intersections which will likely have improvements at some point in the future when we're not quite sure, but the intersection of Burnt Knob and Veterans and the intersection of Burnt Knob and Blackman Road are likely to see some type of improvements in the future. So, with those improvements, it would be our desire to have those intersections in the city, especially if those intersections at some point in the future are locations for potential traffic signals. Those would likely be the city's responsibility to maintain. So, with that being said, we're studying big, with your consent, of course, and we can scale back if necessary. We've waited to send out the memos to the various departments and utilities pending your consent to us studying all of these additional parcels and rights of way. I'll be happy to answer any question before or after the discussion, and we need to set the public hearing, and we would recommend a March 1st, 2017 public hearing date for this annexation request.
So you'll be in communication with the other property owners to make sure they don't want to oppose it before we get to March 1st, so.
Yes, sir. We've attempted to make contact with all the property owners, some indirectly, like Mr. McDonald's cousin owns this parcel here. He is in contact with his cousin, and this property owner here, we have left a voicemail for, but we have not heard back from him. But all the other property owners we have made contact with.
Okay. So if we have some objections there, we'll have to start working on the 10-foot strip.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so if we do have objections, then are we going to be able, I guess we're going to know what those objections are before we vote?
Well, if we don't receive a written consent from the property owners, we can't annex them anyway.
Okay.
So whether they object or not is...
But are they going to know that by March 1st?
If they don't provide a... Well, and what we did with the FedEx property, we had a couple of additional parcels in there, and in discussions with Mr. Ives, because the Planning Commission's action is not final, we can actually... if we had some who were on the fence by March 1st, we could go ahead and recommend approval, and then before City Council public hearing and first reading, we could amend the map as needed if we found out that certain property owners had decided not to submit a petition to us.
Understand.
Okay. Any other questions? Now we're ready for a motion.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. The final item under new business is a zoning application for approximately 120.5 acres located along Burnt Knob Road and Lyle McDonald Court to be zoned park, approximately 116.9 acres, and commercial highway, approximately 3.6 acres, simultaneous with annexation. City of Murfreesboro is the applicant. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Chairman Lamb. Same property that the city has requested for annexation. It's a two-part zoning request simultaneous with annexation. The blue area on the map that you see in front of you is what is being requested to be zoned P, which is the most appropriate zone for its intended use, which is as a park property. A park would be permitted by right in the P zone. Go figure. Then the 3.6 acres south of 840 that's in the purple color is the remnant parcel that was left over after the construction of 840. You can see just to the east of that property are a number of parcels at the corner of Blackman Road and Lyle McDonald Court that were annexed and zoned to commercial highway several years ago. So Mr. Lyons indicated to us that commercial highway was what the city would like to request for that parcel in order to be consistent with the adjacent parcels to the east. And so the request is to zone that property commercial highway simultaneous with annexation. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and we would recommend scheduling this also for a March 1st, 2017 public hearing.
Okay. Any questions?
If not, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing March the 1st.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That motion carries as well. Staff reports and other business. Your report from the planning director regarding year-end report. Mr. Whitaker, sir.
Chairman, the meeting was going almost too quick, so I figured I'd add a little time here. There's about 24 pages, and I think I'll just read it all to you, if that's okay. The end-year report is something we produce every year. Staff works diligently on this. A lot of hard work goes into it. There's a lot of good information in here. It goes back to, some of it goes back to 84. For those out there that are watching tonight and may have never seen this, they can go to the website, look at it. It shows the trends, construction trends up and down over the years with building permits, plats that's approved, annexation zonings, whole host of information that I won't read unless you really want me to. But Again, this year, the trends are continuing to go up in permit issuance, the workload, the number of plats. Again, there's some really nice graphs in here, and I encourage people to go take a look at it. Like I said, I'm not going to read through all this. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I will just hit a few of the high points. We do have approximately around 642 available lots out there. History past, we would run about 2,000 lots out there for purchasing. So you can see that it's hard for us to keep up with the amount of construction going on. Building codes issued in 2016, 1,431 single-family residential permits, 514 multifamily units were permitted. Lots that were given preliminary approval were 2,119. Actual ones that were given final approval was 1,627. The staff reviewed 190 site plans. They've been extremely busy this year. We had 3 ordinance amendments, and that's in 144 final plats were reviewed. Just to give you some statistics on what we've been doing this year. And I have to say, this has got to be undoubtedly one of the quickest meetings we've had since I've been in planning, so out of 2 years. So, with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I do have one other, under other business we need to address. If there's no questions, we do need to elect a vice chair. We do have a full commission tonight, and there will be a good time to do that.
Okay, that's good. Whoever it is, they've got big shoes to fill.
Yes, indeed.
I'll open the floor at this time for nominations for vice chairman.
Chairman Lamb, I'll make a motion to nominate Kurt Wade for vice chair.
Excellent nomination. I will second that.
Okay. Any other nominations? If there's no nominations, then we'll vote. All in favor of Mr. Wade, raise your hand. Okay. I think it's unanimous. Mr. Wade, congratulations or condolences, one of the two. But welcome back in a big way.
Thank you.
So, thank you for being here. Mr. Whitaker, do you have anything else?
I have nothing else, sir.
Okay. If there's no further business, we stand adjourned.